Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. He is Steve, Xbox Live Stevavitch. And it's starting to get cold in episode 202 today, December 4th, 2020. We're going to catch up with each other before diving right into our topic of the day, which is Warner Brothers releases all 2021 movies on HBO Max, which you can fast forward to if you look at the timestamps located in this episode's detailed section of iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Otherwise, you just keep on listening. Happy weekend to you, Sir Steve.
Thank you, Russ. Happy weekend to yourself.
Well, thank you.
How you doing over there, huh?
I'm doing pretty good.
You staying COVID-free in your bio media room, your bio health.
My bio panic room. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody touch me. Nobody breathe on me.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been getting a little real. I can't remember if I talked about this in the last week's episode of Joygasm or not, but my in-laws contracted coronavirus. And what did you say I did?
I think you said something about that. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Well, I'll just
go ahead and say it. I keep on going.
Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say was my in-laws had contracted the dreadful COVID-19, and unfortunately, my mother-in-law actually was the one who got the worst of it. So she had to go to the hospital. She was in the hospital for, I think, 5 days, and then they discharged her. She is still on an oxygen tank. She has to be on oxygen 24/7. And so they gave her two kinds. One is like this mobile version. It's like the size of like a scuba diver's oxygen tank. And then they gave her one that's more dedicated for the house. It's bigger than that and has like a 50-foot long air tube or something so she can walk around without having to lug the big thing around too. So it looks as though they are, they're stabilized. They are slowly improving, which is good. But yeah, it's one of those things that obviously gave the family a little bit of a scare, a little concernage. And once again, makes me lock myself up in my COVID panic room up here all by myself. Don't want anyone to touch me or breathe on me.
Got my games, nothing. My movies to keep me safe and sane.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, in Steve's situation, I think that's what we talked about briefly last week was how you had a colleague whose spouse also got coronavirus. And so we were unable to have you be present with me at the same place. And so we went to plan B in terms of making sure we still got you there. But we're hoping that in the coming weeks that we'll be able to return to normal in that regard. We'll have to see how that goes.
Plan B is you stay away from me and I'll stay away from you. Get away from me.
Yeah. Which is hard because we both like to bug each other. So... We'll have to see what we can do about that. Steve, what have you been watching and playing lately?
Well, Russ, let's see. What did I put in the old machine? What did I give another whirl? Let's see here. Well, the wife and I watched Inception again. It has been a minute since I've seen it. It's probably been probably about 5 or 6 years since I've seen it. So we decided to throw it in there again, give another whirl. Still wonderful, still brilliant, still a wonderful. Anybody who hasn't
Christopher Nolan is the man.
I gotta start spreading that movie around and saying, if you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. It hasn't lost any of its panache, Russ.
Panache.
So that was absolutely wonderful. And then we decided we were looking for something free on Amazon. And we watched Days of Thunder.
Oh man, that is an oldie.
With Tommy Cruise. You know who else is in there? I have a small bit role, Russ. Is your boy John C. Reilly.
I don't remember what character he was, but it doesn't surprise me. He definitely fits right in. I assume he was part of the pit crew.
Yeah, he is actually part of the pit crew. And I was like, what? I saw his name. I'm like, well, I don't remember him at all. But of course, I haven't seen it in a long, long time. So I thought, well, whatever. But yeah, he was definitely part of the pit crew. He wasn't, being his comedic self or anything. He was just being, a good old boy.
Yeah,
And
being a younger, more sprightly John C. Reilly.
right. Yeah. And then I was asking my wife if she recognized anybody else. She's like, no. I'm like, what about that guy? He's like, no, who's that? I'm like, that is a very young Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. He was he played Tom Cruise.
I believe who you were referring to is Michael Rooker.
That's him. And he played Tom Cruise's first rival in the movie.
Yeah, that was great.
So
she recognized Tom Cruise, right? It wasn't like she's like, who's that?
Yeah, she's like, wow, he's young. And then she's like, look at his teeth. His teeth are different now. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true.
The miracles of plastic surgery and all kinds of Hollywood magic.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And we're enjoying the sub. We're not waking the neighbors. We're not, nobody. It's the house is insulated. I actually, since last we spoke, I turned it up pretty good. I was playing some music, and I just went outside just to see if anything was filtering outside the walls that the neighbors might be not so thrilled about, and it doesn't. And so I walk. I mean, inside it was party time. Outside, you couldn't really tell. You'd really have to be listening to think, oh, is that was that what I think it is? And so we're safe. HOA is not going to come kick our door in. Thank goodness. So that's what's going on.
Can you imagine if that's how they actually were? Yeah, like if you got something that's wrong with the house, they just have the right to kick in your door, literally. Like, you're like, oh,
I'm naked right now.
They're like, I'm naked too. Oh,
you're like, oh. Okay, well, come on.
I have never been in this situation before. Yeah. How do we move forward?
Jeez. So, anyhow, what I did,
your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Jeez. So I'm trying to say something.
I'm sorry.
So I twitched more Ghost of Tsushima, but with the woofer. When the thunder claps, it's like,
does it make the dog freak out?
It is awesome. Like, it sounds so good. I mean, it sounds like you're right there. And I hope when the folks at the Game Awards are playing, well, actually, not the folks at the Game Awards, I should say all the rest of the players, because those who are voting for the game. But man, I really hope that is going to get some sort of sound credit, because it is very good with the proper tool, of course.
Yeah, you gotta have the proper setup there, Steve.
And then I purchased. Like I said, I've been doing all year. If Final Fantasy VII comes down in cost, I would go pick it up. And I know you said before, like, well, just borrow it from me, but I'm and I appreciate that, Russ. But with something like this, where they are remaking the game because it was so successful and a lot of folks love it and they want to replay it, but under today's technology, I want to support it. So I didn't want to borrow the game from you. I wanted to support and buy an extra unit, even though
I totally understand
buying it at a discount. So I threw that in there, and that's the only game I've been playing besides Ghost of Tsushima the entire week. So, and
you say you still have not beaten Ghost of Tsushima,
right? I'm literally about to get to the second stronghold on the
second stronghold. On
that
I think I know where you are.
There. Yeah,
yeah. I would recommend. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Russ.
Sorry about that.
I just got my father's armor, and I'm about to modify and upgrade the crap out of it so it's big and strong, like me.
Wait, that's where you are?
Well, I've done all the other little things that I'm supposed to do in the area. That was like one of the last things I had to do. And I think I have like 2 other story, like journal, progressions things that I got to do. But otherwise, the entire map I've explored. Like, there's nothing else really to do except for some given stuff. And then I'm on to the stronghold. So in Final Fantasy, I'll tell you where I am. I know I haven't got to where you are yet. I've leveled up to about level 16. I have where we've gone back into Shinra to take out another reactor, and that's where we are. We're on this scaffolding, and I think we're looking at reactor number 5 or something like that. I'm not really sure. It kind of lost me there with all exploding and taking it out, this and that, but Barrett's with me, Tifa's with me, Cloud is a wet blanket, but all the girls seem to love him, and I got my new sword, and
the sword is as big as I am.
Right, exactly. How he can wield it with those pencil-y arms, I don't know, but that's part of the fun.
Hey, he's got some definition in his deltoids, okay?
Yeah, really. Yeah, he's got some good shoulders, but it takes a little bit more than that. Anyhow, so that's been fun. Let's see. I think I'm heading towards a boss. I took out. You remember the I had to revert power to certain areas to make platforms move.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That's exactly where I am. So I've already done that, and then I stopped and saved and turned it off, so I could actually get to sleep without amping myself up in a boss fight and then thinking about it for the next 5 hours.
Right. Yeah, if I am understanding where you are you looking for like the key codes and stuff? Is that kind of where you're at? Like there's a bunch of consoles and you're having to look for the keys in order to move forward, or is that not where you're at yet?
No, that's not where I'm at. I'm not looking for keys. I literally had to. So Biggs is in the reactor, and we got to go to Biggs. Like, for example, I had to ride a subway, and then they figured out who I was and the destruction and havoc I was about to cause, and so they stopped the train, and I had to run through the subway in a sense to escape and find my way to the reactor. And then I've been climbing up, and now I'm like over the slums in this, heading my way towards this reactor and fighting off little monsters and stuff.
Yeah, what I was going to say is there's a certain segment that you're going to come to where there is a multi-layered part of Sector 5 or wherever it is that this place is located, where you're having to constantly find key cards. And so you'll find key cards and they make it like this mini game of sorts. I don't want to like completely explain the entire thing, but it's definitely like kind of a preview of things to come at different parts of the game, where you could tell the game designers are like, how do we make this game seem longer? Yeah. I know. Let's force the gamer to do this over and over and over again to intentionally slow their roll. And so it's just kind of funny because like you'll get there and I'm sure you're going to be telling me all about it. Once you get there, you're like, why did I have to do that?
Yeah.
But that's good, Steve. I'm glad that you are making your way through Final Fantasy. My only hope is that I hope that you are able to finish Ghost of Tsushima before getting completely into Final Fantasy VII.
Well, yeah, although I feel bad because I've been streaming so much of Ghost of Tsushima that I feel like I have to keep, when I play it, I have to continue to stream it, which I'll probably do, but that means my wife calls me or I get a phone call, I'm gonna be playing like, okay, here I am going to this farm and I'm going to liberate the people. Yeah, what's up, buddy? I took out the trash. I'm back here. All right, now these guys don't know the whooping that's gonna come on them. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Oh, hey, Russ, what's up? Yeah, right.
Hey, Mom. What? No, I don't want those sweaters from 1987. No.
Yes,
no,
I've taken my
I
vitamins.
love you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Mom. I don't want the Flintstone vitamins anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I do. Give me give me the ones with Dino.
I want the orange ones.
Yeah, they always that flavor tastes good. That tastes good.
Okay.
Okay.
Love you, Mom.
Okay. 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 I love you too. Bye.
Oh, God.
Well, one of the things, though, is that you do have a mute button. I'm pretty sure there's got to be some sort of mute feature on your headset. So if that happens, then you won't have to necessarily agonize your viewers when you do that. But I'm glad that you have been pretty religious about getting the Ghost of Tsushima adventures recorded. I just hope that you're, like I said, like you need to kind of power through that. I feel like you've had enough Ghost of Tsushima, at least for now. You need to like get to the ending so that way we can actually talk about the ending, and then you can just go full throttle into the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay.
Anyway, is there anything else, Steve, or is that it?
That's about it, Russ. How about you?
Well, I have a list here.
Oh, my goodness.
The first thing that is worth talking about is that there's a new character making his way to Soul Calibur 6. And I'm very happy that you have been playing that game kind of on a semi-regular basis. It's definitely a fighting game that you have gotten into, and that makes me happy because I always knew you were a Soul Calibur fan like me. And so Huang is now going to be officially released for Soul Calibur 6, bringing the entire roster up to, man, I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again in the future, but I'm really happy with how Namco has continued to flesh out the character roster, which I had a feeling they would, just because when the game first came out, it just seemed rather bare bones. Like there were, I don't know, maybe 12 characters or so. I don't remember exactly how many. It was between like, I want to say 10 and 12. But since that release, they have consistently added more and more characters, and all of the characters, including the guest characters from other games, are really, I would say, a nice selection. So that's super cool. I have continued watching The Mandalorian season 2, and I'm telling you, Steve, you need to watch it. The production values of that show, while I mean it is a show, it's not a movie. Excuse me. You know what's really funny about that? So because it's been getting colder, we've had to turn on the heater, and it's that fun like transitionary period where like your house starts to pump the warm air through, and so for some reason you get kind of like that like explosion of dust. And it's weird because it's like it's one of those situations where like, you know, you have to blow your nose, and your nose sometimes gets a little nice bloody boogers and all that kind of stuff because your nose is not used to the change in the weather and a lot of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, back to The Mandalorian. So The Mandalorian is a show that you need to watch, Steve. You definitely, you just need to bite the bullet and get a Disney Plus subscription because it is very fun. And I mean, The Mandalorian's not perfect. There are little nitpick things I have about it, but overall, man, I can tell you, there are certain sequences throughout each episode where I'm like, this is better than the recent movies that came out. So definitely worth watching. My Xbox Series X, Steve, is still pending. I have no idea when that's going to get here. They did say it should be here on December 23rd. We'll see if that's actually correct or if they are lying.
It'll come on Christmas. Like the driver will be like, yeah, thanks to you, I'm not with my family right now, but here's your stinking Xbox.
If that happened, I would invite him into my house and be like, okay, let's play some games. I have Cyberpunk 2077.
Huh?
Come on.
Cool. Oh, thanks, man. That's nice, bro.
Yeah. You want some Christmas breakfast? I have some stuff here for you. Here you go. Yeah, I got lots of candy canes. Here you go.
Yeah,
I'll massage your feet. How about that?
Chocolate Santas.
Oh, yeah. You can dip it into your hot cocoa and it'll melt into some extra chocolate goodness. There you go. Yeah. But I have also been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been getting farther into that. I just made it over the wall. There's going to come a point in the game where you have this huge wall that you have to use your... it's kind of not a grappling hook necessarily, but it's one of those like electrical versions of that where you shoot it and it allows you to ascend over the huge wall. And so that is where I am at. I feel like there's probably like another 20 to 30% left for me in the game. I did get to a point where once again, the game designers decided to completely mess with the gamer. I'm in this certain area where they have made it very hard to move around. just think like you're indoors, you're in this interior, not a lot of movement, like just in terms of being able to take evasive action. And then they fill it with all kinds of enemies in there that basically surround you and beat the living tar out of you. So, and they're not a boss or anything like that, but it's one of those situations where I'm just like, you just get frustrated. You're like, wait a minute, why did all of a sudden the difficulty just ramp up out of nowhere? And after I was like easily dispensing of various hapless enemies that made the mistake of coming my way, now suddenly I'm getting owned big time. Like I just, there's nothing I can do. And so I ended up stopping there. I'm like, okay, the fun factor has now been depleted. I'm going to stop playing for the night, and maybe I will try something else. But it's those types of scenarios where I don't really have a desire to try and figure it out, because to me it's an unfair cheat by the game designers. And so I'm just going to look on YouTube and be like, okay, so how do you get past this? Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, and then go back to playing. It's different than like a game such as Sekiro, where the game design is so well done and succinct with everything. Like I know it's more about me having to get good than it is like lazy game design. Like you could tell they're like, oh, we need to make this game longer, so let's do this, and that way they'll have to spend an extra 5 or 10 hours on that part. But one of the things I was wanting to ask you, Steve, about Final Fantasy is, now that you've been able to play it somewhat, what do you think of the graphics?
So the graphics are fine. I kind of wish, you see, I kind of want them to have waited for the PS5 to launch and then release the game, because I think that would have been huge. And I'm playing it, and yeah, of course it's way better than it was before, and I'm glad they're doing it. But I do feel like it is a missed opportunity. I feel like it could have been more detailed. I mean, when Cloud is walking and the light is reflecting off his blade, depending on which, left or right step he's taking, I think that's awesome. I think there's a lot of like really cool details, but I think it could have been better since we were so close to the PS5 releasing. I just feel like, and I'm playing it, but I already want to see it on PS5. It's gonna be better anyway. Why couldn't we have just waited for a PS5 launch? And it could have been because they didn't get the PS5 kits in time, and this took quite a while to remake and to create and design and whatnot. So that was probably it. But and throughout the whole game, I'm feeling great about it. Some of the characters definitely look better than others. Like, your main characters are great, and then when you talk to somebody, they look like they're out of The Witcher or something, where their mouth just moves but doesn't really like follow the speech or something.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So,
you're in this weird situation too, where you're playing the game on a regular PS4. Right. The actual experience, like in terms of the visuals, do improve if you're on a PS4 Pro, and of course if you're on a PS5. So I hope that you're able to upgrade from a regular PS4, just because I do think you are going to notice, especially because you have 4K TV. So you want, and the PS4 is not natively set up for 4K, like taking advantage of it. So hopefully you're able to acquire one of those systems, because I think that you may change your tune a little bit with regards to this.
You know what I'm going to have to do though? Before I was going to have to get I was not going to have to, but I was planning on getting just the hard drive version of the PS5 and saving some money. But now that I have this game, I don't know if it's going to let me download a version of the game if I were to go that route. Plus, I have another PS5 title that is a disc also, which is my Wipeout, which is, game is a bit passable, but anyhow, I'm like, okay, now I have 2 disc games that I want to play on the next system, and I'm not going to be able to do that unless I get the hard drive, or excuse me, the disc version of the platform. So,
well, and you're more of a physical copy kind of guy anyway. Yeah. You're not as much of the digital download, and especially when it comes to titles like Final Fantasy that you're a huge fan of. I would suspect that you would want to actually go more of the physical copy route, just to have that as like a souvenir, so to speak, moving forward, where you can look back on it fondly and be like, yeah, this is like the physical version of the game, so on and so forth. But I can tell you also, I am almost 100% certain that it won't let you play the digital version of the game if you have the physical version. Like if you decide you want to buy the physical copy, then that's the version you play. I don't think there is a feature that Sony does where it can recognize that you bought the physical version and it'll allow you to download the digital. I don't think that's an option.
I'll have to take a peek, but I think you're right, though.
Yeah. Moving on from Final Fantasy VII, I have continued to play Legends of Runeterra, unlocking all those new cards I told you about. They definitely made the game harder, because I'm like losing at least 50% of the time now. It used to be like I was winning like 90% of the time and losing 10% of the time. Yeah, it's like 50-50 now. I'm just like, wow, okay, apparently I was not supposed to win this at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tweaking, balancing issue. I think they were thinking, man, everybody's just winning all the time. We're running out of cards. I don't know if that's true or not. Finally, one of the things I think is worth talking about. We were considering this being our topic of the day, but then the Warner Brothers story came out, and so this is not. But it's still very much an eyebrow raising type of situation where BioWare had released a statement where Casey Hudson, the GM of BioWare, and Mark Darrah, who is the executive producer on Dragon Age 4, both have left the company. And so that's pretty crazy because, like, I mean, Casey Hudson has been with the company for a long time. If you recall, like he was there for many years with BioWare. He left and actually got a job, I think, at Microsoft for a couple of years. I think he left the company in like 2015 or something like that. And then he came back in 2017 or 2018, somewhere around there. And, I always viewed Casey as kind of one of the cornerstones of BioWare. I think that when you're in a company, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that there are certain people within any given organization that really toe the line, so to speak, in terms of defining the culture of the studio, as well as the type of games that the studio creates. And when you lose those people, then there is a noticeable shift in terms of the tone or the spirit of the games that get released. And I don't recall if he left after EA acquired BioWare or if he was still there initially for a while. I didn't do my homework on that necessarily, but they did put out kind of this it's a statement by EA and BioWare, and they're trying to make it sound as positive as possible. It says, we strive for all of our studios to be places where talented creative people come to do career-defining work. A dimension of this ambition is that sometimes those people want to try something different. Casey Hudson, GM BioWare, and Mark Darrah, executive producer Dragon Age, are two of those people, and they have decided to move on from BioWare. And they go on to say, I want to personally thank Casey and Mark for everything they have done for the BioWare community and particularly for our players. They will always be an essential part of the studio's history, yada, yada, yada. And then they go on to talk about how Samantha Ryan, who came to Electronic Arts after leading Warner Brothers Games, is one of the strongest leaders in the industry. She will continue to oversee the studio. They also said how they were excited to announce that Christian Daly, who joined BioWare from Blizzard, will be leading the Dragon Age project currently in development. So they go on and talk about how Christian is a fantastic creative leader. They look forward to getting to know him as well as the other folks in the coming days, so on and so forth. So they're trying to make it sound like it's not a huge deal. I have a feeling it is a big deal because you have Casey Hudson, who, when he made his big return back to BioWare, I mean, both of us were excited. I mean, do you remember how there was that chunk of time where BioWare was working in the games that they came out, like BioWare Andromeda, for example, was just like this horrible title in the overall series. It was nowhere near as good as Mass Effect 1 and 2, even 3. And so having him return, at least for me, like I was like, okay, this is a very good sign. It's good to have one of the BioWare OGs come back in, and hopefully he's able to right the ship. And we noticed, I think probably his first kind of like result of coming back was Anthem, wasn't it?
Correct. Oh, geez. Blah. Yeah, I remember you were talking about that, and you were pretty darn excited. And I think even Big Baby Moose was on the show at the time, and everybody was pretty stoked about his return and what the plan was and whatnot. So it's kind of odd that a couple of years later this would happen. Or I don't even think it's a couple of years. I think it's just a year later. Well, maybe a couple of years later. Anyway. No,
it was probably 2 or 3 years, somewhere in there. But I do think it has to do with the relationship with EA, because there's this ongoing pattern I've noticed where once EA acquires a studio, they tend to really start leaning heavily on that studio that kind of goes against those studios' values and principles as it applies to game development. Because EA is more of a publisher. They're looking at their quarterly earnings. They're trying to please their stockholders. They're going through a lot of more of the business side of things. And so like with Anthem, for instance, if you recall, remember that story where they were kind of talking about the development of Anthem and how they were having like an EA bigwig come and really apply the pressure on them to just get something out the door, and almost was taking a not necessarily a creative directive role, but like was definitely dictating like what they should and shouldn't do. And then so it became less of BioWare working with the BioWare secret sauce and more about trying to please their boss. And that's always a recipe for disaster. So it makes me wonder if Casey just got tired of the office politics. And I'm honestly wondering if he and Mark are going to go off and start their own studio. That's what I'm wondering.
Possibly. I wouldn't doubt it.
We'll have to see. But they were going on talking. I think both individuals gave another statement on their own accord. And again, it was all professional. They're definitely not wanting to stir the pot. They want to make it look like it was an amicable thing. So we will just have to see. But I did think it was worth talking about, because that is something that is a big deal to you and I, me especially, because I've been a big fan of BioWare, and BioWare has been having a struggle as of late to maintain the level of quality that their older titles had. Like they were just like releasing title after title, and now it has become like almost as if they've gone off the tracks or something, and they've lost their way a little bit. And so I'm hoping, especially with the Casey Hudson return, it definitely gave me confidence to like see if they could get back on track. And it looked like they were, in terms of like revisiting Anthem. They want to try and turn it into the game that they originally were pushing for. And then they had the Mass Effect Legendary Edition that they're working on that has Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. It's going to come out next year, I think. And of course, Dragon Age 4. And then they had another title, I think a new Mass Effect game entirely that they're working on. So you could tell that there was this engine that was running. It's like, okay, cool. This all sounds right. And then this happened, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll have to just kind of wait and see, I guess. So the topic of the day is the Warner Brothers releasing all 2021 movies on HBO Max. This is huge. They have about 17 movie titles that they typically kind of put out on average each year. Excuse me. Had a little bit of the old burping. Yeah. So kind of kick things off. So Warner Brothers, they announced this new approach to distributing its films in 2021. And of course, they do have the 17 theatrically released movies that are going to be set up in such a way where it will be available concurrently for a 1 month exclusive window on the HBO Max platform. So that means that United States-based customers will be able to watch highly anticipated releases that include Dune, The Matrix 4, Suicide Squad, the new Mortal Kombat movie, and more at the same time on HBO Max as they would be able to see them released in theaters. So it's going to be the simultaneous release where you have the option if you want to go into the theaters and watch it, or if you want to be at home, as long as you have HBO Max, you can actually watch these movies. And to my understanding, I don't think they're going to be charging any extra money for that. I think as long as you have the HBO Max subscription, you can watch it. I have some other notes here where they talk about Warner Brothers announced the news on Thursday, citing the hybrid streaming and theatrical release change as, quote, a strategic response to the impact of the ongoing global pandemic, particularly in the U.S. All films will release on HBO Max in 4K Ultra HD and HDR on HBO Max. After the 1 month HBO Max exclusive window is up, the movies will continue to run in theaters in the United States like they always do, and internationally, quote, with all customary distribution windows applying to the title. So like basically the theatrical runs will be the same as what we all know them to be, where a movie, especially if it's a successful film, it'll be in the theater for a few months before it goes to digital download and disc and all that fun stuff. So the list here, I have the release list from Warner Brothers, and they include the little things, which I haven't heard of before. There's the Tom and Jerry movie, the Many Saints of Newark. And actually, you know what? Let me back up. So the Little Things is scheduled to come out in January 29th of 2021. Tom and Jerry is on March 5th. The Many Saints of Newark is March 12th. Reminiscence is April 16th. Godzilla vs. Kong, which sounds like a movie right up our alley, is May 21st. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is on June 4th. In the Heights is June 18th. Space Jam: A New Legacy is July 16th. The Suicide Squad, which is the new what's his name? What's his name, Steve?
Yeah, ask the guy who's bad with names.
The director of the director of Guardians of the Galaxy. Why am I doing a brain fart on this? Gosh.
James Gunn.
I'm seeing his face. Thank you, James Gunn.
Man, I got it.
You're a saint. Thank you, Steve. Anyway, he's directing this new Suicide Squad movie. That's going to come out on August 6th. Dune is October 1st. King Richard is November 19th. The Matrix 4 is December 22nd of 2021. Then they have a few others that have a to be determined. There's Cry Macho. What is this? I never know how to enunciate this. It's like Malignant. We'll just go with that. Sure.
Russ.
Those Who Wish Me Dead, Mortal Kombat, and Judas and the Black Messiah. So those are the roster of titles that are going to be making their way both to HBO Max and the theater simultaneously. So I want to pause there and talk to you, Steve, about what do you think about Warner Brothers taking this type of approach?
Well, Russ, thank you for asking. So
you're welcome.
I recall us talking roundabouts about this topic throughout the year about what the plan is, and movies not being released, and studios suffering because this is kind of like how they make their money from their movies. They spend all this money making the movie, and they got to show the movie to get their return, and so that ain't happening. They've already spent the money making the movie, but they're not getting any money back, and the theaters are suffering as well. So, but my comeback was, that when there's a will, there's a way, and it's where we live in a very nice technological time right now where stuff can be streamed, and that's probably not the ideal, but that could be a way that they could stay in business. And the thing is, too, I mean, it could be a win-win for the movie studio and the audience, but it's a win-lose for the theater itself, because you're basically taking out the middleman in a sense, which is the theater, and saying, hey, we're just going right to the viewer, which is awesome in its own right, but it's making the theater experience a thing of the past, which it kind of is. But if people still want to go to the movies, but they're afraid of getting sick, or, which could lead to them dying, or at the very least missing out on work. I mean, no one wants to, they pay a cost to watch the movie, but they don't want to have an additional cost to their health just by being entertained. And I'll include myself in that one, and I think you're with it too. So, I mean, it's a hard decision to make, but at the same time, it's like, the business has to go on, and if they can safely release this movie into people's homes, it's hard to say. I mean, it sucks. If I rely on somebody for a long time to make me money, which is, if I have a widget and I need so-and-so to sell the widget, and then so-and-so who sells the widget can't, I'm going to find another way to sell my widget, right? And if that means that it doesn't benefit the so-and-so person, I'm sorry, but I got to stay in business myself. I mean, it's a hard choice they got to make, but in all reality, I mean, they have to survive too. And it's so anyhow, I think it's still a great idea, because we're not supposed to really gather. I mean, all the officials have said, hey, don't, even on the holidays, we know they're your family, but don't get together too much, because we don't want to spread this virus. And so since we're not supposed to gather in large places, well, why can't we watch these movies that we're highly anticipating for this entire year? Why can't we just watch them in our own homes? And so that is a happy alternative. And I think that this will promote competition in a sense, to say, okay, well, what can we do to make people come to the theater? Because Corona's not going to last forever. At some point, it's going to end. We're going to get all vaccinated. Like, life is going to move on. But until that point, how are they going to attract people to come back to the theater once they've accepted watching movies from home in their pajamas, with their food, with the bathroom they don't have to wait for, not trying to find parking, having all the candy ready, having maybe a couple of friends over, like a watch party kind of deal, with their own entertainment system, their own sound system. And that is really attractive also. I mean, I like the movie experience, but I don't really like the stuff that comes with the movie experience, where people would stop, won't stop talking, or they kick my chair, or maybe my chair is not very comfortable. That's the one I chose. Or I'm like, man, I'm feeling gouged by buying this really expensive popcorn, drink, candy, etc., whatever. So, I mean, to me, it really sounds positive. And I could almost predict that if, Warner Brothers is doing this, other studios are going to go, man, how much money are they making with that? And should we do that too? So, I mean, part of me, the real compassionate side of me is with the movie theaters, because they're going, man, this is, we're not going to make money from Warner Brothers. I mean, why would they come to us? They're afraid of coming to us. Everybody's going to be watching it from home. And how long is this going to last? And how many more people are we going to have to lay off because we don't have work for them? So, and I mean,
right.
I feel for those people, but I don't want to keep on going. I want to let you have a chance to say something.
Yeah, sure. No, there's still quite a bit. I mean, so I think you touched on a number of valid points. And I think that when it comes to the movie theater itself, AMC had a response to Warner Brothers' announcement. And there was a quote. Well, going back to what they were talking about how Warner Brothers is going to be like the first month that every one of those titles is going to actually come out, You can watch it on HBO Max as well as a theater. Well, there's a quote here from AMC that's actually from the company's CEO, who slammed the decision in a statement to the Hollywood Reporter. Here's the quote. It says, clearly Warner Media intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie studio division and that of its production partners and filmmakers to subsidize its HBO Max startup. And that was, his name is Aaron, who is also president of AMC Theaters. And his quote continues here. It says, as for AMC, we will do all in our power to ensure that Warner does not do so at our expense. We will aggressively pursue economic terms that preserve our business. Aaron said that AMC Theaters is already in an immediate and urgent dialogue with Warner Brothers. He also said that the theater chain is confident that incoming COVID-19 vaccines will make it easier for moviegoers to return to theaters safely and with a peace of mind. So his statement comes the same day that the theater chain announced that it would be selling 200 million shares to raise $844 million, which resulted in a 17% stock drop, which was reported by Variety. So that reminded me a bit of what we talked about a few weeks back with regards to the movie industry, specifically the theater chains, the brick and mortar locations, because if you recall, there was Regal Theaters that I believe went bankrupt. I'm not sure if anyone has picked them up since then or whatever, but they were kind of the first casualty of the movie theater chain business. You still have AMC, you still have Cinemark. But what's interesting to me is how AMC, which is the largest chain in America, have been very on this developing story, because I think that they, of course, have been really affected in 2020 in terms of their bottom line. And what's interesting to me is when I think about Warner Brothers is in a position where they can leverage a platform like HBO Max because they own HBO Max. It's part of their ecosystem. It's the same thing as Disney, where Disney can easily release its films on Disney Plus because they now have that as a platform. I don't necessarily know about the other movie studios, though. I don't know if Universal Studios has a platform that they can leverage. I don't know about Sony, in terms of Columbia Pictures and TriStar. I mean, they have their PlayStation platform, but that's a bit different. That's not the same thing as a Netflix or a Hulu or something to that extent anyway. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the other theaters do in response to this, because I do think that Warner Brothers, like the movie studios themselves, like Warner Brothers, are in a similar boat where they have to make money. They've ended up delaying basically their entire roster of films for the year of 2020. So they haven't been making any kind of return on their investment when it comes to this. And especially depending on how 2021 shakes out, it's a very good thing that we have the vaccines that are coming through. I think there's 2 or 3 of them now. And like to your point, Steve, the whole COVID-19 is not going to stay around forever. We're going to be able to move past and that sort of thing. The question that we all have, though, is will these companies be able to survive until that time? So it's hard because you brought up some interesting points too about the differences, kind of the pros and cons of going to a theater versus being able to watch it from home. And I think that it's weird that we're kind of at the precipice now of being able to watch lots of films from the home as opposed to, having the exclusive experience of going to see the new films in the theater before coming to the home market. What was interesting is actually IGN put together a very comprehensive list of pros and cons with regards to watching a movie from the comfort of your home versus watching a movie in theaters. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go down this list and get your thoughts on this. The first pro that they have listed here is that we get to watch a bunch of brand new, highly anticipated blockbuster movies for a reasonable monthly price without having to leave the comfort or safety of our home. And so That is, I mean, I agree. Do you that is definitely a pro in the sense of like, wow, like as long as you have a subscription to HBO Max, there, to my knowledge, is no additional premium fee in order to watch these films. You're just it just comes up for a month. And another question that I would love to get the answer of is, can I watch that movie as many times as I wish during that month? Because that would be pretty sweet too.
Now, let me interject here real quick because, okay, so HBO Max, that's different than like an on-demand, right? Like you still have to go by their schedule, or is that like, I want to watch The Matrix 4 at 9:30 tonight. Take my money sort of thing. And then I can pause it and I can, run back and forth if I have to take a phone call or run to the bathroom or something. Is that how that works? Because I haven't had HBO in years. And so.
Well, so here's something that I'm not sure. Do you have AT&T as your,
Yes.
as your web provider?
Yeah.
Well, then you get HBO Max.
Really?
Because AT&T is a part of Warner Media. And they have this whole thing set up where if you have, I believe it's like if you have AT&T Uverse, or basically whatever the internet provider platform is that AT&T is, one of the specials that they have is that you get free HBO Max. So that's a big incentive. That's a big incentive for anyone who is on AT&T's Uverse system, that they, if that's your internet provider, then that's a big plus right there going into 2021. Because, and even before that, like, I know my wife and I have been enjoying HBO Max, and the mobile app is really good too. It's easy to log into and find what you want to watch and stuff. And I would think that during the month, it's going to be different. It's not like when you go to a theater and they have certain times posted for when you're able to watch these films. I think it's going to have that video on demand model where you can literally at any time, any day during that month, if you want to watch like Godzilla versus Kong, you can watch it.
Yeah.
And so.
I guess they'd have to be that way because, I mean, if they said, oh, we're going to play The Matrix 4 at 5 a.m. in the morning, and if you miss it, then you're screwed. I would think that would be kind of a letdown because I have no interest in really watching The Conjuring or some of the horror flicks. I know, some folks like watching that stuff, which is okay. I like to not watch it, and I like to get some sleep and not think about it. So to me, there are. I want to watch Wonder Woman for sure, many, many times, most likely, but I want to watch it on my schedule. So I guess it would have to work that way. I mean, because it would,
Yeah. I would be very surprised if they had it like the theater chains do where you could only watch it at such and such a time. I don't think that's the case at all. Going to one of the cons that they have listed, a con is that this, of course, is a massive blow to the movie industry, which was already suffering through 2020, especially smaller independently run theaters. Perhaps the biggest thing about that, though, is that it affects the thousands of people who are employed by the theaters of any size. And I think that I can speak for everybody when I say that we definitely, that's kind of part of it, right? Is like, we want to keep the movie theaters going. We want to keep people gainfully employed, and having something like this, especially if they continue it beyond 2021, if it just becomes a thing, that's definitely going to affect employment. What say you?
Yeah. So one of the ideas I had before was that, if AMC, for example, made an app, or let's say AMC went in with Regal and they said, okay, we need money to keep the theaters, at least, pay the lease to keep the theaters. 'Cause at some point they're going to reopen the theaters and maybe implement some new technology and, whatever, comforts, whatnot. So if they said, okay, we need to make money too. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an app, and a bunch of different theaters will have a stake in it. Maybe it'd have different features of the app depending on who you want to go with. Who knows? I don't know. But then Hollywood and all these production companies will say, okay, well, we will use your medium to distribute our movies, but people have to have like a smart TV or a streaming device, which you can get. I mean, there's Blu-ray players that have smart features on them. You can watch Hulu and YouTube and whatnot. You can do it through your TV. You can do it through your gaming system. You can do it through maybe, I think, even like a Fire Stick or something. There's definitely ways that you could get this done in your media device. But you would have to have something in order to get the app to watch these movies from your house. I think that, maybe even if they charged a little bit more, that would be A-okay, because that would keep them in business. And then once everything went back to normal and we can all go back to the theater safely without thinking that we're going to catch something, then of course they would open their doors. We'd all go back and whatnot. And I think that they don't want to do it because it might be too much of a money constraint. I think they probably make a little bit more money with everyone coming in paying cash for movie tickets and whatnot. So, but I think you have to adjust yourself to the times that we're in, and you can either do what you're doing now and maybe you might make less money. Maybe you might go out of business. Who knows? But if most of the people who are coming in paying cash for movie tickets are not coming, you have to figure out a way that you could still make money to stay in business, even if it's something that is not as attractive to you. So,
yeah, I don't think that I know that you have brought up this point in the past, last time we were talking about it. And honestly, I just don't think it's realistic for the brick and mortar theater chains to actually put together some sort of online platform to be able to distribute this stuff. I think that's kind of one of the big pain points that they have, is that their business model from the ground up is designed to be a brick and mortar location that people come and watch these movies that the theaters lease themselves. And, it's kind of a Blockbuster Video versus Netflix type of situation that they find themselves in, where people have the convenience of being able to watch movies and TV shows and stuff through a platform like Amazon Prime or Netflix, instead of going to a place like Blockbuster. And I don't think they're in a position to be able to do that. I mean, Disney itself is this huge conglomerate of a company, and it took them multiple years to get Disney Plus set up and ready to go. And I don't see that happening. Moving on to one of the pros, of course, is that this is an incentive for more Americans to stay home, preventing further exposure and spread to COVID-19. That's self-explanatory. One of the cons is that we are missing out on the movie-going experience. This is something that I think registers with me. I think it's the same for you as well. It's weird because 2020 has not allowed us to really have that for most of the year. And even for those willing to brave movie theaters, it's unlikely that theaters will be packed for some time. And I think that I'm in conflict about that, because I don't even know if that's classified as being old school at this point or not. But I have always enjoyed the idea that if there is some sort of blockbuster tentpole film that's coming out, I always love being able to get out of the house, meet up with friends and family, and go to the theater. Like there is just something that is very iconic about going to a physical theater location that you cannot replicate at your home.
Well, I mean, you have the huge screen, you have the sound system, you have the comfy chairs, and you have, I would say, people of similar interest, of course, with you, that they're going to shout with you, they're going to cry with you, they're going to laugh with you. I mean, watching the Avengers was the perfect example, where we went into an IMAX theater and you sit down, you're looking at your person to your left, you're looking to your person to your right, which could be you. And you're like, man, I'm stoked. You look into the person behind you in front of you, like, I cannot wait for this. It's going to be awesome. And you're kind of interacting, and that kind of that feeds the fire, in a sense of
the energy in the room is palpable at times. Sure. So another pro is that this makes seeing new movies much more accessible for people with disabilities, people who don't live close to a theater, anyone who hates rushing through dinner to catch a 7:05 showing or falling asleep during the 9:15 one. Yeah, it totally makes sense. One of the cons that they have listed here is that this will currently only be in the United States, which is unfortunate for the rest of the world. But on the flip side, congrats on your considerably lower COVID numbers.
Yeah, really. Well, another pro too also is going on what you just said is, I mean, there have been times where we are trying to link up for a movie and either I have to stay longer for work or you have a meeting or, there's a bunch of traffic and we're just hustling to get there on time. And there's been times like the Avengers where I've had a day and a half and I'm getting there. I haven't had.
Let me tell you, I have had a day.
I haven't had anything to eat. I have a headache. I'm like getting there just so we can watch the movie and podcast on it.
You are negative Nancy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like don't touch me or I'm going to bite your hand off. So
I'm not sure if Steve is going to be Debbie Downer or negative Nancy. It's very hard to know.
Positive Paulina. Okay. So, but in this case, like if I could come home and like you watch the movie, let's say in the morning, like you had a day off, I don't know. And so you were able to watch it the day before I was. And so then I watched it after you did, but we were in the comfort of our own home and we still watched it and we're able to podcast on time. I mean, that would be like the happy medium. I wouldn't have to rush through traffic, wait in line, find out, you're waiting for me, I'm waiting for you, and we're having to abide by the movie theater schedule instead of our own schedule, what works best for us. So that to me is pretty attractive.
Well, and I think that is a very good pro for you and I, especially because one of the challenges that we have, like you said, is trying to sync up our time to be able to go to the theater together to watch a movie that we're going to later on review. And this is definitely convenient because, like you said, we don't have to worry about being at the theater at a specific time in order to meet up. But furthermore, we like the amount of movies we can watch and then review goes up considerably because we're no longer having to pay, $10 a ticket to go see each movie. Now we're just having to pay our monthly fee for HBO Max, which technically speaking is more like if you have AT&T Uverse, you're just paying your monthly internet fee and then you get to watch HBO Max for free. So that's actually a big pro for us. I had not really given that much thought. Moving on from there, there's another one where, this is a big one, I think, for everyone, is that if you're able to watch it from home, you can pause the movie at any time if you have to go to the bathroom, for instance. And that's always one of the cons whenever you go to the theater is that if you have this overwhelming urge to have to go to the bathroom, you're going to miss out on certain parts of the film. That's kind of always a bummer, right?
Exactly.
Now, one of the cons that they did talk about that I think is also very legit is that pirates and bootleggers will have a field day with this. It can be really difficult to get to the movies when you're when you're a wanted criminal who lives on a boat or have to keep an eye on your moonshine distillery. But people will totally rip these movies and put them on illegal file sharing sites immediately once these films are released. I totally get that. Like it's interesting, like if you look at like some sort of bootlegged film, like if someone brings in like a home video camera into a theater and tapes it, it's just the quality is not there, and it's they're still able to circulate it or make money off it or whatever. But imagine being able to have a setup at your house where you probably could record it and have it be very close to like as if you were to pop in the disc itself and watch it. And I think that's going to be a big problem for the studio moving forward. Another pro is parents with young children having a hard time getting to movies. Now they can see some new movies without hiring a babysitter. They can pause to tend to their kids. They can watch like the Tom and Jerry movie that's coming out next year. The kids can watch that for a week straight if they want. That's actually really nice.
Indeed.
Another con is that certain movies, especially big ones like The Matrix 4 and Dune, will look and sound better on the big screen no matter how good your home setup is. I totally agree with that. I think there are certain films that were designed from the ground up to be a theater experience. And unfortunately, there are certain films like The Matrix 4, for instance, where, yeah, it's convenient. It's exciting to be able to watch it from your home. But come on, let's be real. Like, you want to watch that on like a 2-story size screen, right?
You would. Absolutely. Yeah, IMAX in particular. But most folks don't really have a proper setup. Like, they're either watching it through their nickel-sized TV speakers, and they're like, "Oh, great, I'm going to watch a movie," and then it's not even going to be a good experience. Or they'll just have like a sound bar and a woofer, which is not going to give you the same experience either. And you would have to have a pretty, I think, substantial setup to watch The Matrix 4. I loved watching The Matrix. Oh my gosh, in the theater, redonkulous.
Yeah. Another pro is that you don't have to sit through a bunch of commercials before the movie or hear Maria Menounos tell you about new shows coming to AMC later this year, or how you can play games on the big screen by downloading the new V Arcade app on your phone. Amen to that. That is huge.
Yeah.
Like that is a very, I would put the word pro in caps lock. Yeah. With a bunch of happy face emojis next to it. Yeah. That was becoming way out of control when you go to the theater, where you're subjected to all kinds of commercials and just like movie chain propaganda stuff, like branding and everything, that you're just like, my goodness, I'm just here to watch a movie. So
there were times where like I counted on my finger 8+ commercials, and I'm looking at my wife, and sometimes I look at you like, I paid good money. I stood in line. I paid good money. Why am I subjected to commercials right now? It's like, literally, should I just watch this on free cable, like my local channel? That'd be one thing. You know, if I had to commute here, wait in line, and pay the premium price to sit here and be a captive audience for your screen, like, no. It's like if you were going to wait for a ride at Disneyland, and as soon as you get on, you know, I know I'm totally drawing a blank on all the rides, but you sit in the little cart that's going to take you.
Sit in this chair, and this ride takes you
really fast
in a direction. Yeah. Lots of colors.
Space. Yeah, there you go. Space Mountain. So you're sitting in Space Mountain. They lock you in the cart.
Mountain. Space. Sitting in a chair.
Fast.
Motion.
And so you're there, and then since you can't go anywhere and really look at anything else, they're going to show you a bunch of commercials. It'd be like the exact same thing, only you're in the movie theater. You know, it has never felt right, and it's felt increasingly worse because they've put more and more ads in there.
Yeah. Another con is that this sets a precedent that could potentially eliminate all but the biggest blockbusters from screening in theaters, which means that medium budget movies like Knives Out will go straight to video on demand or show up exclusively on streaming services like Netflix and Amazon. I can see that happening as well, not to mention when you think of how the theaters will lose a significant percentile of customers who prefer just to watch movies at home, so they don't get a cut of any of that. And I think it's going to be a dicey situation in that regard for them to be able to sustain their business model. Another pro is that that this year, I mean, so the way IGN wrote it was that this has been a really tough or rough year for a lot of people, and things still are not great, but it's nice to have some fun, stupid things to look forward to, like a movie where Godzilla and King Kong beat the crap out of each other, or a movie where Tom and Jerry beat the crap out of each other, or a movie where everyone from Mortal Kombat beats the crap out of each other. But I think that the point of what they were saying was that it's been sad in 2020 that we haven't had movies to go watch and see. And so this is actually a very positive thing that no matter what happens with the theater chains, that at least a big studio like Warner Brothers is going to be releasing movie entertainment for all the movie buffs out there. And you know, for us, for instance, like the Joygasm podcast has suffered because we haven't been able to go see the new movies. I think the last like new movie that was in theaters that we reviewed was Sonic the Hedgehog, that came out right before all of the shutdowns started happening. And as a result, it's been unfortunate. I know our audience has talked to us about how they miss the movie portion of our program, because normally we would kind of oscillate back and forth between talking about video games and then talking about movies and so forth. So I definitely agree with that it is, regardless of the situation, it is something to look forward to, at least from that particular movie studio. And it's going to be interesting to see if other movie studios find a way to follow suit as well. Because again, I think that just for you and I, in terms of like our podcast, that's a big plus. That's a big thumbs up from us. They did talk about how, in their opinion, that one of the cons is that the HBO Max app needs some work. Me personally, I don't think I have any kind of big gripes about the app. I think it's actually really intuitive and it's stable. I haven't had any connection issues or whatever. So they did talk about how apparently, like, it can be buggy on consoles if you're using it through the console. It doesn't exist on a variety of smart TVs, Roku devices, or PlayStation 5 yet, that sort of thing. And that makes sense. I mean, HBO Max is not as prevalent as, say, Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, something like that. But I think, especially if they continue to support this in this direction, I could see them really fixing that. I think that would become a non-issue. Another pro is that there are no rules. You want to talk over the movie? Go nuts. You want to bring outside food? Hey, it's your house. You want to watch Mortal Kombat completely nude while pounding Long Island iced teas and screaming the Mortal Kombat theme song at the top of your lungs?
Kombat!
That's between you and your neighbors.
Okay, I'm good.
You want to check your phone during the movie? You can do that without strangers publicly shaming you. That is true. That is very, very true. But however, there is a con to that, in that you will probably wind up staring at your phone while half watching a movie that you would have been completely focused on if you saw it in a theater. Another pro they had was that with the money saved on tickets, concessions, gas, parking, Ubers, and babysitters, more people will hopefully start to invest in better TVs and sound systems, which will make everything they watch all year look better. Indeed. Now they just need to Google how to calibrate them and disable that motion. Oh, thank you. Whoever wrote this IGN article thing, I totally agree. This is what I've been talking to you about too, Steve. They just need to Google how to calibrate them and disable that motion blur setting that makes everything look like a soap opera. Oh, thank you. Absolutely. I cannot stand that. We're like, all the TV manufacturers out there are like, hey, we got this new technology. It unnaturally smooths the camera pans and everything. And you're like, what on earth is going? That is a completely unnatural fluid movement. Give me back my 24 frames per second film look. I hate how it's completely ruined every type of film where, like, if the camera pans from left to right or something, it's like this weird, like, it goes from 24 frames per second to like 120 frames per second, all in the name of, hey, look how smooth it is. You're like, no, that's not the movie going experience. I thank IGN for that. Way to go. Your stock went up a few points just now. The final con that they have listed is that nothing can match the taste of movie theater popcorn. I totally agree with this as well. You can try and replicate it at home with coconut oil, kernels, and a weird chemical called flavacol, and then melt some weird synthetic butter on it, but it's just not the same when you're not paying a teenager $8.75 an hour for a bag. Or no, excuse me. When you're not paying a teenager $8.75 for a bag.
I'll pass on that. I disagree. The movie popcorn is fine, but there is some pretty darn good popcorn that you can buy, like from Costco, where it's like a happy substitute. Like, you could have, the movie popcorn has never blown me away. Yes, it's fun to shove a bunch of popped kernels in your face, but to me, it's good, but it's not like game changing. Russ, come on.
No. I totally disagree. I think that movie theater popcorn is legit. Like, it's like the one time where, like, you just lather on that fake butter or whatever it is they have. You pour tons of salt on it, and you do the whole shake thing to make sure it just oozes through the popcorn bag to the point where like the bottom of the bag starts to get wet. You can tell it's seeping. And so you have to like put like 10 napkins underneath the popcorn bag.
Yeah, so the grease doesn't soak into your clothes. Ugh.
Exactly. Then you got your bag of peanut M&Ms right next to you and a nice big Coke Icy to wash it all down. That's what I'm talking about. See, like you're going to miss that. Like, yeah, sure, you can pop your own popcorn at home. It doesn't taste the same. So, I don't know. Okay. Lots. I feel as though this has been actually a pretty comprehensive look at the differences between being able to watch a movie at home versus the theater. What are your concluding thoughts regarding this whole situation?
Well, I think that other folks like Disney Plus, for example, are going to have to re-examine how much they're going to charge people for this kind of thing. Is that this is like a ginormous deal. Like if you sign up for HBO Max and you have all access to these movies. Like I haven't read anything so far that says they're going to charge anything more for watching these movies. But for example, if I look back towards Mulan on Disney Plus, like, yeah, you can have Disney Plus and be paying us for it. But guess what? We're going to charge you an extra $30 to see Mulan. Pay up, patrons. People are going to be like, okay, if we have 17 movies, like $30 a pop, that's a lot of money coming towards them. But if we can watch all these movies, like 17, how many movies was it? Like all in the 1 month with just signing up for 17 with just signing up to HBO Max. I mean, Disney's got to be shaking a little bit in their boots. Like, why should we pay you $30 a pop when we could just sign up for HBO Max? Competition.
It's true. It's true. No, I think that you're right. I think that when it comes to this entire situation has made it possible for the whole what if question, right? Because everybody for years have asked, what if we could watch brand new movies in the comfort of our home as opposed to going to a movie theater? And I think that people have been a bit enamored, I would say, with that idea. And here we are. And it's kind of funky in the sense that it's happened out of necessity, which oftentimes a lot of these types of inventions and things actually get spawned out of necessity. And I think it's kind of weird because it's not as if life is normal right now and they just happen to kind of decide, hey, we're going to make this new avenue available for folks who want to be able to watch movies from home. You know, there is kind of a stain on it in a sense where we know for a fact that movie theater chains are suffering right now. We know for a fact that the only reason why this has been done is because the movie studios have also been suffering. You know, like they need to have a return on their investment. And I think that's where I feel conflicted, because if you were to ask me, do I like it or do I not like it? I do like it. I definitely like it. I think that especially when it comes to this particular deal, it's a no-brainer where I can watch all 17 of those Warner Brother movies as they get released. And as each one gets released, I have a month window to be able to watch it, and probably for as many times as I want. I do think that I'm a bit cautiously optimistic about it, simply because I'd have no idea if they're going to start to add rules and regulations to this type of platform setup. And I know you were talking a little bit about that, but right now it sounds like a good deal, like especially like if you're on it, like the AT&T Uverse internet and you get to HBO Max for free. That's a terrific deal, right? You're going to be saving. I mean, what's 10 times 17? That's like, $170. So like, roughly just in movie tickets alone, if I were to go see all 17 of those movies in the theater, I'd be spending probably around $170 just in the tickets. That's not counting all the concession food. And that's actually more expensive than the price of admission itself. So there is something to be said for that. But I could totally see the bean counters getting greedy and suddenly imposing certain restrictions like, oh, well, and actually, oh my goodness, this reminds me of that one, what was the name of that service? I was a member of the service where like you could have a card and you could go watch as many movies as you wanted to at the theater, right, and you wouldn't get charged an extra amount. And for some reason, it has escaped my mind. But if you recall, it was an unsustainable system where they were hemorrhaging cash because you had people who were going and watching the same movie like 10 times. And so they ended up, slowly but surely adding more and more restrictions to the point where then the novelty was completely snuffed out, and people were very irritated with like, okay, well, if you want to watch this movie, you can only watch it from this time to this time, and you can only watch it on this day to this day. And oh, by the way, if it's this movie that's a tentpole movie, we're going to add a premium price to that movie because we expect that to be in high demand. Like all of the little like nitpicky red tape type of stuff really chipped away at the excitement and the interest level of that type of situation, to the point where people start canceling their membership. They were just like, well, I think it's a lot easier just to go to the movie when I want to and just pay the price and do whatever. So that part of it remains to be seen when it comes to this. And I think Disney is also in that same situation where right now, like for instance, I'm a Disney Plus subscriber. I get to enjoy, as a result of being an early adopter, I think I only get charged like $3 a month. It's like $3 or $4 a month. It's really low price for all of the content that they have made available. If they follow suit with releasing their movie titles onto the Disney Plus platform, it's interesting because I don't know how I would feel if they were to introduce a premium price into the mix, because I understand that like the library that I'm paying for right now is considerable. And so it's a good price to be able to access all of that stuff. But the platform itself was not advertised as a place to be able to watch brand new theatrical films. So if they were to come out and say, well, if you want to watch this, then we would put, tack on some sort of like movie going price. Like, if there's like a one-time fee of like, you want to watch this movie, it costs you like $7. And then you can, from that moment on, you can just watch that during like the time frame of that theatrical film being released. Like, I think that I would be okay with that. That's something that I would be able to stomach. But again, it's a very slippery slope because you have the bean counters that are really trying to squeeze as much money as they can out of their customers. So it's hard to definitively state, yes, I think I'd be fine with that, or no, I'm not okay with that, or whatever, simply because I think we're kind of in the Wild West as it applies to this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're going to have bean counters either way. I mean, I think the bean counters in the theater, for example, are the ones with the concession stand where you can get a box of Milk Duds for like $2 or $3 at the gas station, and then you can pay $8 at the movie theater because they're like, well, we're going to make up our money somehow, so we're going to try and squeeze you for as much money as we can for the soda and the candy and the popcorn. And like popcorn, like all that is like cheap stuff when you buy it outside the theater. And so, I mean,
right, but that's more of the brick and mortar location stuff. What about like what are your thoughts on the idea of the actual movie studios themselves? Like Disney, for instance, like if Disney were to come out and say, like, here, I'll give you some scenarios. Disney Plus announces they are going to do what Warner Brothers did, and they're going to release their whole roster on Disney Plus with no additional fees. You like basically, if you're a subscriber, you just continue paying the same price per month. Would you be happy with that?
I would.
Now, if Disney Plus were to come out in a different scenario and say, hey, we know that you are a monthly subscriber. You can continue paying that same fee. You still have access to all the stuff that we have on the platform. However, we're going to be releasing our roster of movies, and for, each movie, like if there's a particular movie you want to watch, it's going to cost you like a one-time fee of like $7. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I would.
If Disney Plus were to come out and say, we have this whole roster of movies, if you want to be able to watch them on demand as many times as you like, and we have an upgrade price that basically will upgrade and raise the price of your monthly fee. So like instead of paying like $5 a month, you will now pay $10 a month. Would you be okay with that?
No.
What if they had something of that where like they added in, you could cancel that portion of it at any time and return it back to your original monthly price?
I mean, yeah, maybe. But I mean, I feel that if I'm already paying for a premium service to have access to all these movies, premiums on top of premiums, you have to be careful with. And so if I'm paying for Disney Plus and I've watched everything I want to watch on Disney Plus and there's nothing new, yet I'm still paying the monthly fee, and then you're going to charge me additional money, that money has a cap of what I'm going to be willing to pay versus I'll just wait for it to come out on my regular subscription and then I'll just watch it whenever I want to at that point. I think as soon as you get into the double digits of that, then I think people are gonna shy away. Like I wanted to see Mulan, for example, in the theater and didn't get it. Now I'm not going to pay $30 a pop to go see it in the theater. I wasn't that hot on the movie. And I mean, yeah, I paid for it this time, but I mean, I definitely was irked. I mean, I paid for it basically because I wanted to see a brand new movie and I hadn't been spending all this extra dough in the theater for all these other movie tickets. So I had a little extra dough to spend the $30, but that doesn't mean that should be the normal. I don't even want to spend an extra $20 on top of a premium. I don't want to spend an extra, like, let's just $7, maybe up to $9. I think that's even too much. But if you said $7, okay, $7 for that month for, watching a new movie that's coming out that I'm not gonna have to spend extra tickets for, like a member of my family or a friend or whoever to watch it, then I'm okay with that. But because you're already taking my money for the time that I'm not utilizing your service throughout the year. I mean, me particularly, right. I've already watched all the Disney Marvel movies that I wanted to watch, so I'm not really interested in watching Disney Plus anymore. So let's say I did that in July, but I haven't watched anything Disney since July. Well, you've already charged me for all the months from July to now. So you've taken that money from me and I haven't utilized a single bit of your service. So I wouldn't want to pay it.
Well, I think
go ahead.
I think it's kind of a psychological thing, right? Where like the base price for like Disney Plus, for instance, is based on the fact that they have basically this huge vault of content that you can access at any time and you can watch as many times as you want. It's up to you when you watch it and how many times you want to watch it. If you don't want to watch it, that's your prerogative. You can do so. But the idea is that it's been designed in such a way where you pay this low monthly fee and you have access to all this stuff. Right. And when I look at, like, if they were to actually go full throttle on this and actually release their roster of movies every year on Disney Plus in addition to the movie theaters, I think it would be, in my opinion, I would be fine with like if they were to have some sort of price upgrade where instead of me paying like $3 or $4 a month for Disney Plus, if I end up paying like $8 or $10 a month, and as a result, every movie that comes out is available for 1 month windows and I can watch it as many times as I want. I think that's actually pretty fair, just considering the alternative, which if I go to the movie theater, I'm paying between, depending on which theater I'm at, $8 to $12 per time I'm going to see that movie. So I think it is still a pretty swell deal when it comes to that. But I do understand how I think that's at this point pretty subjective, because just because I think it is doesn't mean the person next to me does. And I think that if it were to get to that point, the bean counters are just going to have to do a bunch of testing and figure out like what will make the community ultimately support this platform. But just to end things on this particular episode, I do think My hope is that the movie theater brick and mortar locations do not go the way of the dinosaur. I think there is something very special about the movie going experience. And I, for one, want to see them thrive. I want to see there be some sort of happy medium that perhaps allows for both platforms to coexist together. And I guess it just kind of remains to be seen. This is by no means the end of theaters, but especially when you consider that both Disney and Warner Brothers now have an alternative that is going to impact the movie theater experience. And it'll be interesting to see what the other movie studios do to answer the call, because they are also hurting financially. They've got to find a way to survive. That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Make sure you tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, which is spelled Joygasm, and consider becoming a monthly contributor. You'll get exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it really helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will see you all next week.